like to call this meeting to order. This is the Village Board meeting, Tuesday, July 23rd. If we'd all stand, we'll have Trustee Yukich lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa. Trustee DeVivo.
Present.
Trustee Kajanis. Trustee Sabo.
Present.
Trustee Suisse.
Present.
Trustee Yukich.
Present.
Mayor Daley.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have one.
What's that?
And that concerns new business and to, at that time, under new business, to have discussion to support the request for an air monitor.
I have, so you know, Margaret, I have talked with the trustees, and we do support the air monitoring system. And I've talked with Mr. Pickering. There is no need for a presentation. We would like to craft a letter to the state in support of it, as did the township and also Senator Redonio.
Well, that's very nice. I wasn't told that after I was asked to have the Environment Committee hear it, and timing was of the essence, I found out
Correct.
just yesterday. But I think Mr. Pickering, I know we have a long meeting, but I think Mr. Pickering
He didn't come to make a presentation. He's in public comment. He's going to basically describe the program itself.
Mr. Mayor, I know that because I talked to him yesterday, and he will be making a presentation under 3 minutes, but I think that it should be recorded that this board is in favor of it, and I still would like it to appear under old business and have a new business and have a second, so that it becomes a formal recognition for this very important idea, and it won't take very long.
Okay.
I need a second. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to amend the agenda under new business to have a basic discussion on the air monitoring system.
Well, it's a brief discussion. I think he's going to present everything, and it's just an acknowledgement, as you had said, and it would indicate in favor.
Yeah, he's going to make his statements in public comment, and if you want to discuss it in new business, you know, we'll discuss it briefly in new
You don't
business.
want to discuss it, you just want the board to admit or to say that we are in favor of this, correct?
I just think that if the board under new business has a comment, they will make it. We know we're under time constraints here, but if you
Okay,
have you polled the members, I wasn't aware of that, but I still think we need to hear that publicly.
Okay, fine. All right, this would be E. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 9th, 2013 meeting?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve a proclamation designating August 9th, 2013 as Kevin Kilmer, Michelle Kilmer Ivanich Day in the Village of Homer Glen in honor of Kilmer Ivanich Memorial Scholarship Funds?
So moved.
First by trustee Yukich,
I second.
second by trustee Suisse. We have Mr. Larry Kilmer. Excuse me. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
I'd also like to vote in this. Aye. We have Mr. Kilmer here tonight to accept this proclamation. I'd like to say a few words before he steps up and takes a picture and receives his award with the entire board. As many of you know, I recently created a new recognition program in Homer Glen called the Making the Difference Award. I will present this award from time to individuals who have exemplified the outstanding spirit of volunteering in Homer Glen. The first recipient of this award was Bud Fazio, a longtime public servant and volunteer in Homer Glen. Tonight, I would like to recognize the achievements of another outstanding longtime volunteer and resident of the Village of Homer Glen, Mr. Larry Kilmer. As many of you know, Larry is one of the founding fathers of the Homer Stallions youth football and cheerleading organization. Larry has dedicated countless hours over nearly 3 decades to assist in the growth and enrichment of Homer Stallions athletic programs. He has worn several hats over the years, from coach to fundraiser, all the while stepping forward as a leader for Homer Glen and Lockport's young athletes. In each capacity, Larry has given of his time and energy in order to enhance the quality of life for our youngest residences. For Larry's endeavors on the Homer Stallions youth football and cheerleading organization, the Kilmer Ivanovich Memorial Scholarship Funds, and for all his volunteer commitments over the years, I would like to present him with the Village of Homer Glen's Making the Difference Award and thank Larry for making the difference in Homer Glen. I'm going to read the award and then we'll have Larry come up. Making the Difference, awarded to Larry Kilmer for your dedicated years of outstanding service and commitment. Thank you for everything you have done. You truly make a difference. Homer Stallions founding father, key contributor, and inspirational. Come on up, Larry. How about we all come down and take a picture with Larry?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Very nice. Okay, 1, 2, 3, take a couple. Okay, that flash?
Yeah.
Oh, there's that. 1, 2, 3, one more, 1, 2, 3.
Don't move.
Go ahead,
Can we wait 1 second so we can get one from the website, please? Smile, Larry. This is an equipment handout.
Oh, very nice.
This was unexpected. I thought.
Go ahead up to the mic and I'll take it for the CD.
Okay, well, now you're lost for words. Yeah.
Okay, all I can say is thank you. It was unexpected. All we were doing is trying to get a proclamation for my son and daughter, and I did not expect to get this. Thank you very much.
Okay. We also have the proclamation. Is there a motion to approve a proclamation designating August 10th, 2013 as International Starry Night and August 11th through 17th, 2013 is Starlight Week in the Village of Homer Glen?
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo,
I second.
second by trustee Swees. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Are you going to read this proclamation?
I'm going to have you read it once
No.
we pass this.
No, I really pass the honor to you.
Go ahead.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Swees?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Motion carries. Here you go, Margaret. Read it out.
I believe that the mayor should be reading it.
You
He
are-
reads all proclamations.
You are personally responsible for most of our stargazing and what have you, so
Well, I think the whole board is working as a partnership, and I
Okay.
think that's what makes it.
we'll cut it short. Designation of August 10th, 2013 as International Starry Night and August 11th through 17th, 2013 is Starlight Week in the Village of Homer Glen. Whereas composed largely of gas and plasma, stars are cosmic energy engines that produce heat and light. And whereas through the number of stars in existence is unknown, Our universe likely contains more than 100 billion galaxies, which each galaxy possibly having more than 100 billion stars. You know, this is more up your alley, Margaret. And whereas these stars have provided the foundation for some of the oldest hobbies in the world, including stargazing and the natural science of astronomy. And whereas stargazing and astronomy have faced obstacles over the last century with the emergence of artificial light in developed societies. And whereas Governor Patrick Quinn recently designated August 11th to the 17th as Starry Night Week in the state of Illinois in order to enjoy the entertainment and beauty of our stars. And whereas the Village of Homer Glen, the fourth international dark sky community in the world, has become known for starry night viewing since 2008 and educating the public in dark sky awareness. And whereas the Village of Homer Glen participated in the first International Starry Night by hosting stargazing event on July 12, 2013, in which approximately 225 people from across the Chicagoland area participated at Homer Township's Trantina Farm. And whereas the Village of Homer Glen and Homer Township have a future Starry Night event planned for September 27, 2013. And whereas opportunities for Starry Night viewing should be enjoyed by all citizens, since the National Park Service study predicts that by 2025, 90% of the people in the contiguous U.S. will never see the starry night sky even once in their lifetime. And whereas the Village of Homer Glen, the fourth international dark sky community in the world, supports Starlight Week and International Starry Night. Now therefore it be proclaimed by the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Homer Glen that August 10, 2013 is designated as International Starry Night, and August 11 through 17, 2013 is Starlight Week in the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, in celebration of the beauty of the stars and bringing back starlight. Dated this 23rd day of July, 2013.
Thank you. I just want to say that on the governor's website where this idea is explained in detail, it shows all of the municipalities that are participating. So by now there should be thousands. It's very interesting. We have been the leader in this. We didn't just do it this year. We've been doing stargazing and a starry night since 2008. So we are really ahead of lots of other communities. I believe we are the model that sets the pace for culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This would be G. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of June 27th through July 24th, 2013?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
I second.
second by trustee Suisse. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next portion of this meeting is reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll start out under new village entrance signs. Today, the village's contractors began the process of installing new small village entrance signs around the community. These new signs look great. An example of a new sign and an old sign are in the back of the boardroom tonight, over in the corner there. You can certainly see the difference. Thank you to staff for working to get this important project completed. Also, the sign change-out project has resulted in the village having some old original signs that have been retired. We'll keep one original sign because of its historical significance. What I'd like to do is have the village board agree to donate one of the old signs to Kilmer Ivanovich Benefit to be auctioned off to raise money for this important scholarship fund. I'd like to take a poll of the board to see if they're okay donating one of the original signs to the upcoming benefit. Trustee DeVivo?
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Yukich? Sabo?
Good idea.
Yes.
And Suisse? Okay, so we'll get one over to you, Larry. Okay, under Erin Hill's park dedication. Earlier this evening, I was joined by Parks and Recreation Committee Chairwoman, Trustee Marcia DeVivo, Trustee Suisse, Park and Recreation Committee members, and village staff members as we broke ground at the village's Erin Hills Park site. A photo of the groundbreaking is on the large screen right up there. The village's latest park addition will have new colorful playground equipment. We're excited to begin the construction on this new addition to the village park system. My understanding, with a little weather cooperation, the park should be done by the end of the construction season. Under the Homer Township Library Reading Room dedication, the village board and I were recently invited to attend the dedication ceremony for the Homer Township Public Library's brand-new Heroes Quiet Reading Room. The room is dedicated to PFC Michael C. Oliveri and all the heroes in our lives. The new program will begin on Friday, August 16th at 6:30 p.m. Additional information regarding the library's new expansion and upcoming events can be found on their website at www.homerlibrary.org. Under the Will County 143rd Street construction project, Bell Road West to the I-355. I have previously expressed my concern to the village board and to the residents of Homer Glen about Will County's current plans to install unmountable medians on 143rd Street, Bell Road to I-355. This week, I once again communicated my concerns to Will County Engineer Bruce Gould. I'd like to read to you from the letter I sent to Mr. Gould and copied to Will County Executive Larry Walsh, Speaker Herbert Brooks Jr., and County Board members Steve Balich and Mike Frickalone. Dear Mr. Gould, upon closer examination of the Will County's 143rd Street reconstruction plans, I want to continue my strong opposition to the county's planned installation of unmountable medians on this roadway. I'm sure that you will hear considerable opposition to your plans at the public meeting you plan to hold in Homer Glen in August. As soon as you know the meeting date and location, I would appreciate being notified. While I'm concerned about the entire stretch of 143rd Street, I'm particularly concerned about median installations on 143rd Street from Golden Oak Drive to Bell Road. I believe restricting and limiting access to parcels in this area will have a severe detrimental effect on the village of Homer Glen. So you know 56% of the village expenses are paid for by sales tax. Yet the county has plans to restrict access to one of the village's top sales tax producing shopping centers, Homer Town Square. This, in my opinion, will be financially devastating to the village of Homer Glen and store owners in the Homer Town Square. I urge the county to quickly revisit your preliminary plans and remove the unmountable medians you have planned for from Golden Oak Drive to Bell Road. At your meeting with the village staff on June 26, 2013, you requested feedback from the village regarding your plans. Since June 26, 2013, as mayor, I have now twice urged you to remove these plans for medians on 143rd Street. I will continue to urge you to change your plans each time we communicate about this project moving forward. The county has not, respectfully, James Daly, Mayor. The county has not yet established a date for the August public meeting. As soon as they do, I'll let the village notify, and I will make sure the date gets put on the village's website. Okay, under birthdays, I'd like to wish Finance Director John Sawyers a happy birthday tomorrow. And of course, we all wish Trustee Costa a happy birthday this coming Saturday. And that concludes the mayor's report. Under trustee reports, let's start with Trustee Suisse.
No new reports.
Okay. How about Trustee Sabo?
Okay, Mr. Mayor? Report for the Environment Committee on stargazing, which took place on July 12th. It was excellent. The weather was wonderful. Everyone enjoyed themselves, and then the astronomers that came from near and far were very pleased with the sight. The next stargazing date is September 27th. The time will be 8 to 10, and it changed this summer because of it was too light to start at 8. We wish to thank the Homer Glen EMA for their service, their fine service. Will County School District 92 for turning off their parking lot lighting and roadway lighting, and Homer Township for giving permission to host the event at the Trantina Farm. I'd like to share a letter with you that the Environment Committee received from a Homer Glen resident about his experience that night. For the second year in a row, I attended the stargazing event held at Trantina Farm on July 12th. And my grandson Liam, who is 8 years old, thanks to this event, has become an astronomer buff and is saving his money for his own telescope. The number of people that attended this year was impressive and included a number of neighbors, well overflowing the regular parking lot. The astronomy members from Kankakee Area Stargazers, Naperville Astronomical Association, and the Southwest Astronomy Observers Group came from some distance to share their knowledge and enthusiasm, and they are an impressive group. They provide a great variety of sights from the Moon to Venus and Saturn and the Ring Nebula. Every one of these astronomer volunteers commented on how great the sky was in Homer Glen. A few of them talked about how difficult it is anymore to find any dark sky in the metropolitan area. Our commitment to minimizing light pollution in our community is a great asset and one that contributes to our quality of life. Once lost, we can never get it back. So thank you for your continuing efforts in protecting our environment. Best wishes, Ken Lemastny, Homer Glen resident. And I just wanted to say that the Community Nature and Harmony Awards for Homer Glen Lands Day are due. Homer Glen Lands Day takes place in September, and I hope there are applications on the table over there if you're interested in nominating someone, an individual, business group, a community organization who through the creation of wildlife habitat or preservation, restoration, or beautification of land within the village has demonstrated a commitment to the environment and in the process significantly contributed to community pride. So we've been doing this since 2001, and Homer Glen Lands Day is established as part of Public Lands Day, National Public Lands Day, and this year the date for National Public Lands Day is September 28th, but the awards will be presented at the last board meeting in September. So very easy to nominate someone if you admire what they have done. It doesn't have to be a property. It could be an activity that has contributed to the welfare of Homer Glen. So please go to the website and see the application. It's easy to look at and gives you a lot of ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sabo. Trustee Yukich?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. How about Trustee DeVivo?
Thank you, Mayor. Last night was the Parks and Rec meeting. We actually had a resident attend. She lives in Old Oak area and frequently uses the Heroes Trail. What she was asking about is where additional parks would be placed, and we discussed some of the possible areas that we might be putting parks, and we also discussed the new park that will be going up in the Goodings Grove subdivision. We announced the groundbreaking. That was at 6 o'clock tonight, and as you can see, it's up here, and here's the equipment that will be in that park, the color scheme. So there you go. A lot of thought went into this. Trail connections, we discussed the trail connections. Again, we've discussed this several times, and this is the one from the sports fields and to the sports fields in the library, and it again was discussed that this is the committee's top priority, and we would really like to move it to Phase 1 engineering so we are ready for the grant cycles. Mike Salamowitz discussed potential grants for the Goodings Grove school trail connection. Perhaps he can expand on that when he gets, to his comments. And the committee did vote on this to move this to board for approval. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeVivo. Is there a treasurer's report?
There's no treasurer's report, Mayor.
Is there a clerk's report?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
How about the village attorney?
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
How about any task force chairpersons? How about any public safety officials? How about the village manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a number of things tonight. I'll go quickly through them. The very first thing, Mike Salamovich wants to give you an update on a couple projects. So, Mike, why don't you go ahead?
First of all, for the as far as the Erin Hills Park, construction should be proceeding again. We had some issues with some soil. We've resolved those issues, so construction will be starting with that. And as far as drawing a blank. Thank you. Second phase of the Amberfield, we are going to be going out for bid on the second phase of the Amberfield subdivision. The bid date on that is August 5th. That's going to be advertised this Thursday. It'll be advertised. So what we are going to be doing with that is we pulled the letter of credit for that. We did the road work last October. This year, we're going to be finishing up with the detention pond, making sure that that has the correct volume, and there's some other odds and end things that we'll be doing in the subdivision there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. In front of the table here is an example of some bike racks that a very nice company in Homer Glen has donated to the village. Alps Construction, which is over in our industrial park, has donated 6 of these to the village. We're going to have them painted black, and we're going to be installing the very first one in Stonebridge, and then we have a need for bike racks in the parks, so we really appreciate Alps Construction donating these to us. I think that they had ordered them for a project that they were working on, and it didn't happen, and so they graciously donated them to us, so thank you to them. One of the things I wanted to quickly go through with the board and let you know staff is working on it, because as you're traveling up and down Bell Road, a lot of people are actually noticing this. We're having a real tree die-off problem on Bell Road. And one of the challenges that we have here is current village code for commercially zoned property does not require the removal of trees when they're dead, and does also not require the replacement of them. And so the trouble is if you do a shopping center, and a part of that shopping center's approval is the planting of 10 trees when it's built, and then one dies one year and one dies the next year, and then this year 5 or 6 die, pretty soon the shopping center has very limited landscaping and no trees. So staff is working on a proposed ordinance to bring forward to the board to address this problem. A lot of communities already have this in place, where there's a dying tree in a commercial area. It's required to be removed and replaced in kind, usually with the smaller tree, obviously. So very quickly, just so you understand the problem, we got about 2.5 miles along Bell Road, from 159th to Bell Road, to Bell and Glengarry Drive. There are currently about 29, actually I think 30 dead trees along this corridor. Most of them are ash trees. And I will go through them quickly. These are all along the corridor, and they were taken a little while ago, so some of them look even worse than this now. Some right here in this shopping center. And what's going to happen is, come a month from now, if you didn't notice it, you're going to seriously notice it, because most of them are losing leaves and the storms are losing branches. So I won't list, we just put the nearest commercial tenant that was by these trees, but it's a real problem that's growing and growing, especially on Bell Road. So I wanted to let you know, in case you get any questions about it, we're working on an ordinance that we're going to be bringing forward to address it. One of the other items I wanted to talk to you real quick is I'm going to have Joe. Joe, you back there? Joe, if you could step up to the mic, I want him to tell you a little bit about a special event that's happening this Friday. We've been working with a local bank on it to make sure everything runs smoothly. So, Joe, why don't you give him an update on that?
Yeah, this Friday at the First Midwest Bank, located over by the Roberts Repair over on Bell Road across from the old Kmart. They're having a car show event there, Le Mans Car Show. I've already talked to Le Mans Car Show people. They have approximately 16, 18 cars registered. They don't anticipate it being a big event. I have asked for the services of Will County Sheriff and myself to be attending the event also, just to monitor. And they've gotten parking approval to park in that Roberts parking lot. That lot holds approximately 85 cars, the bank about 50. So we'll be monitoring closely, just based on the past history and the potential of crowds with the Le Mans Car Club.
Thank you, Joe. Mayor, that ends my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. The next portion of this meeting is public comment. Thank you. Okay, the first speaker would be Marvin Pickering. If you step up to the mic and give us your name and address for the record.
Marvin Pickering, 15525 Gallagher Road. Good evening, Mayor, trustees. Your actions are greatly appreciated. You've already taken away my first part, was to ask you to join the movement for an air monitor. And this movement is moving faster than I anticipated. That's one reason why I asked to speak tonight, was that CARE, the citizens group, had met with the Environmental Committee Chairman for the state of Illinois, Emily McCasey, and asked about an air monitor. And then she just came back and asked for a conference on August 5th, which caught us kind of off guard because a lot of people had not met, or governmental units that didn't have it on their schedule. However, Homer Township, we did meet. They drafted a letter, and as a result, they are even offering a possible site for an air monitor. Air monitors are something that help protect our health, and I became involved because I've lived long enough in one area to see what has happened. Most people move too often. But I've lived over 52 years in the same location. And as a result, I'm able to know and observe some wonderful people. However, in 2010 and 11, 10 of 20 people died in 2.5 years. This didn't seem to make sense. When after that, we kind of looked around at each other and said, what's going on? And the more we investigated, the more I found that this leads back to things that are happening in our environment. Very simply, 7 of them were non-smokers. That didn't seem to, you can't blame smokers. 1 heart attack, that's normally number 1, 3 cancer, 1 complication, and 5 pneumonia. Pneumonia goes with respiratory disease from pollution. If you saw the Tribune last week, 2 million people die here from air pollution. That was in the Trib last week. 470,000 die from ozone. And Lockport Township exceeds the standard for ozone. They are on non-attainment for ozone. DuPage Township is on non-attainment for particle matter. And Lamont Township has been put on non-attainment for sulfur dioxide. In fact, the US EPA, when the report is released, will put Lockport and DuPage Township on non-attainment for sulfur dioxide. So, as we looked around, we have an area that's next to us that's exceeding the standards that are safe for pollution. They are hazardous to our health. And as a result, we get pollution from 3 coal burners, we get pollution from refineries, we get pollution from 3 interstate, and this is a new one. We are getting an aerosol from diesel exhaust. And diesel exhaust is saturating the area now from the truck terminals, distribution terminals. This is a new one. It's silent, odorless, and it's deteriorating our lungs. Our lungs deteriorate, and we end up, you get to be 75 or so, you're on an inhaler, or you're on oxygen, and when your lungs cannot provide, they fill up with fluid, and we say, you died from pneumonia. As a result, I saw Illinois EPA holding hearings. I saw the Pollution Control Board holding hearings. They closed up some coal burning plants. And as a result, I thought, okay, there's something going on. So I developed a PowerPoint presentation called Dying Faster, because that's what they call it. Dying faster. We don't live as long. The standards for pollution have been reset. The levels are no longer the same. It used to be 140, now it's 75. And that put townships in non-attainment. So I hope you all know about airgov.now. sorry, I messed that up, airnow.gov. If you want to find out what you're breathing, you can go to that website and instantly see whether, like the other day, 169. In 2011, when all these people were dying, the average was 98. So we can find out from airnow.gov and the quality of air, but that's one composite for the area. On the Homer Township's letter to the request, there are several reasons for an air monitor, and I think you have copies of that.
We have.
So, and there's many concerns. One is this area is a non-attainment, but when you look at the maps, and after 5 months of more or less research, much of the United States that's in non-attainment, that has changed, but we're still in the Chicago, Gary belt of pollution. And that has not changed, and it looks like we're going to be in that, and it's going to increase. So, as a result, we need, for our own health and safety, as Homer Township has eloquently stated, requested an air monitor for the benefit of the health. Thank you.
Thank you. We do support the effort. The next speaker would be Dennis Gerwing.
Dennis Gerwing, 12250 West Turby Lane, Homer Glen. I wasn't expecting to hear that tonight, but I hope you folks all remember that when it comes time to voting on the leaf burning. This man hit the nail squarely on the head, and all of his information should be considered when the leaf burning issue comes up. I didn't want to talk about that tonight. I want to talk about that. First of all, thanks to the board for naming August 9th as Michelle Kilmer, Ivanek, and Kevin Kilmer Day. That ties right into our fundraising event, which is also scheduled for that night down here at Pelican Harry's. There's a few people here that may not know about it. The event is in honor of those two students, Michelle became a teacher at LTHS, but they have both passed. And this fundraiser is to raise funds, increase the pot, if you will, for the scholarship fund that Larry started for Kevin, and Michelle's husband, Dennis Ivanek, established for his wife, both of which are handled by the Lockport Township District 205, what is it again, Larry? Lockport 205 Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit unit entity. We're having what was hoped to be a big event down there at Pelican Harry's. Again, they've been very cooperative. Staff members at the village and trustees have been cooperative to this point with the fundraiser. I'm sure they'll continue to be so. When the idea first came up, I had no idea how much work there was involved in something like this, but I did make a decision that nothing would be done without Larry's approval. And he has gone with us. We've gone out soliciting businesses with the help of John Cooey and Dave Freedy. A lot of the businesses have been very cooperative, some not so cooperative. And I understand it, it's tough economic times. What we really kind of object to is when they say, well, we'll get back to you, and of course they know they're never going to get back to us. And we look for gifts and things that we can put into baskets and raffle off. For you younger folks that are here tonight, you might remember the name Billy Pierce. And for you oldsters, you may not know who he is. And, for those of you that don't know who he is, he was a White Sox pitcher and a World Series pitcher back in 1959 and helped bring the title to Chicago. He's 86 years old. It looks like he's in excellent health, and he's going to be there that night to sign autographs or take pictures or whatever. And a lot of people there may not recognize who he is, but us old timers know who he is and appreciate what he did. So, the more publicity we can get on this thing, the more people will get there. We're hoping that we're going to have to call up additional sheriff's deputies to control the crowd in the parking lot. That would be great. So, any help you can give, anything that you can do to help make this a success, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. The next items on the agenda are legislation and action items. J1 Is there a motion to approve the 2012-2013 Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus membership dues in the amount of $847.70?
I so move.
First by trustee Suisse,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J2. Is there a motion to approve the Arbor Day Foundation's 2013-2014 membership dues in the amount of $40?
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo,
I second.
second by trustee Suisse. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J3. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 13-043, a limited area groundwater ordinance prohibiting the use of groundwater as potable water supplied by the installation or use of potable water supply wells or by any other method in a designated area of the village of Homer Glen? Village Attorney Mark Stirk is here to answer any questions you have.
So moved.
First by trustee Yukich,
Second.
second by trustee Sabo. Is there any discussion? Trustee DeVivo?
Thank you, Mayor. I have some questions and perhaps some concerns, something that I don't know was answered, and bear with me, there's so much paperwork on this, it's just almost unbelievable. I'm not opposed to the actual ordinance for the limited groundwater. I think that's necessary. One of the things that I see in this report, which it seems to continue, it repeats over and over again, on disturbing the ground. You know, that IEPA claims that this would be okay as long as the monitoring wells were left in place, no further remediation would be necessary if the ground is not disturbed. There's another one, as long as the property continues to be a service station or other use where remaining contamination is capped, and no exposure to the contaminated soil. Another paragraph, contaminated soil and water coming in contact with workers conducting excavation or utility maintenance could be a problem. We have an economic development report from Janie that specifically states that this gas station is going to be pretty much removed at some point by Will County in the future. And it's my understanding that Shell is working with Will County, trying to get an agreement in place to, I guess, protect it, so that they know that this is going to be removed and there's going to be some changes taking place. But I don't believe that that has been signed, and I have some concerns because they're going to tear this ground up. My understanding is the agreement that they will have with Will County will be that once this area is disturbed, they will be called and Shell will come in and remove that soil and take it away. That's one of the things that probably needs to be done, because if it is contaminated soil, they're going to be digging up that corner. They're going to be putting pipes in, new sewer systems and everything. I just want to make it perfectly clear and on record that there's going to be some protection here for anyone who's going to be working in that area. I mean, I don't see
Yes,
anything in
trustee.
here that tells me that.
Okay,
go ahead.
Excuse me. Mr. Mayor, in the audience tonight is Mr. Frank Renard,
You might want to pull it forward.
who's an attorney that does work for Equilon, which owns the facility at 143rd and Bell. Mr. Renard, maybe you could step up to the podium and answer some of these questions. Just by way of background, I have dealt with Mr. Renard and at least 2 other projects, identical projects in other communities, successfully. So, Mr. Renard, if you can answer the trustees' questions, please.
I'll be as brief as I can. We have dealt with Will County to try and get a highway authority agreement. Will County, we worked for 5 years, and we worked with them for 5 years, and they got a new engineer who said, I don't like this thing, so they tabled it, and denied. We then went back and sampled. There is no soil in that in 1/43. There was at one point, but it receded. So the only impact out there is groundwater. We have in place probably one of the most comprehensive environmental indemnity agreements I've ever been involved in as a result of working with your village attorney, which protects you from any impact, and if anyone else is going into the roadway with your permission, protects them. So there should be no soil impact, and there's no plans that I'm aware of for the station to close.
Really? The station isn't going to close?
Well, they're in negotiations right now. That's not something we're really involved in, but clearly they're taking a considerable amount of the property, and that's between the county, obviously, and Shell.
Right. And the
Right.
area that they're taking is where the tanks are and where supposedly, according to the one report, their soil was contaminated. And now you're saying the soil is not there anymore, that's
No,
contaminated?
in the roadways, there's no contaminated soil. Once the tanks are removed, if they do close the station, then they have to go through an entire new evaluation process with the IEPA. And if there's any contaminated soil, that opens a new incident. And a new incident that has to be addressed, just as this one has been for the past 10 years.
So the plans so far have not been finalized, so we don't know exactly what the taking's going to be. So there's two issues. One is the roadway. That seems as though there isn't an issue with the roadway. And if they do a taking that involves taking the property where the tanks are, that's a separate issue that they'll have to deal with is it the IDPA or?
An incident would be open with the IEPA.
Yeah.
Then we would have to address that, or Shell would have to address that, just as they are this particular incident here today.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'd like the comments to be in the minutes
Okay.
for our own protection.
We will do that. Okay.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Trustee
And
Sabo.
it involves information on page 3. It led me to believe that Homer Glen was responsible or could be responsible for finding contaminants in case there were some. And has the right to notify, but they have to, but if they don't remove them, then Homer Glen would be responsible for removing them. But what I'm concerned about is the onus on Homer Glen at all, if there somehow came to be, who knows? I mean, we're just dealing with pollution and we don't really see this underground, but if something were to happen, is the onus on Homer Glen to find the contamination and report it?
No.
Okay.
And that the whole purpose of the environmental indemnity agreement is that if for some reason Homer Glen is working in the roadway and runs into contamination, the chances are probably very minimal, but if they do, they then can either address it and then have Shell reimburse, or they can contact Shell, Shell will then address it. So the issue is if there's an emergency situation, let's say there's a water leak, sewer line, and if the village says we've got to get this done right now, rather than wait until some stage to come out, they can do it, and then whatever those costs are would be paid by Shell.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
No.
That was,
No.
no? I vote in favor. Yeah, I vote yes. Okay, thank you. This would be J4. Is there a motion to approve the Hazel Levine professional consulting fee service invoice for June 2013 in the amount of $8,324.74?
So moved.
First by Trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by Trustee Sabo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J5. Is there a motion to approve the June 2013 Ogleson and Stirk LTD legal bills in the amount of $8,005.12 village and $1,537.5 rebill for a grand total of $9,542.62?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion?
I would like a couple, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
There's two things in here, one for law charges, for looking into the planning commission for the, for placing someone on a planning commission. But then I also see that it's been in the paper for 33C to look into this too and go before an attorney general. I just wondered when, for the 33C, when it came forward, so, because they have to pay for it too. 33C also has to pay for it, and also, you know, the attorney general's looking into it. I have no issue with the placement. I just have an issue with if we're paying for it and 33C is paying for it, basically the taxpayers are paying for it twice. So I just wondered when it came before. I don't know if you know where it came, if it came before 33C, before we looked into it, or it was already in motion.
No, we had no issue with our legal opinion from Ogleson and Stark. We had no issue with Ms. Polk being on the plan commission. The issue came from the school, which the school is pursuing an opinion from the state's attorney. So the bill for their interpretation is going to go to the school board, not to us.
Okay.
We had our opinion before, you know, to make sure we were covered.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
Okay.
Okay, and then the other thing that I would like to do, though, is, you know, when we get something like this, years ago, we used to get kind of a bigger breakdown of what the bills were. I'd like to see them come back, because it's hard to judge what we're paying for.
Trustee Yukich, this is the most, I've looked at all the historical billing. This is what the committee sees. This is the most detailed information the trustees have ever received on legal billing. And they've been receiving it now for 2 years in this form. I've looked historically at what you used to receive. Now, you never used to know what the cumulative
Right.
cost of things were. And so now you see that. So the committee is pretty used to seeing it. And it doesn't normally come to the village board because the committee spends time on this, but we didn't have a committee meeting this month, so we had to bring it directly to the board. But any additional information you want to see, we can certainly provide to you. But this is probably as detailed as I think we can get, because not only do you have the existing bill, but you have the accumulative effect of all of the legal bills going back in the spreadsheets, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we had to cancel the Administration Finance Committee for lack of quorum, and so we brought it directly to the board.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I just want to comment on the legal bill, the way it's set up. I believe that it's important that the trustees see this, and that it's itemized, and the ability to ask questions is the right thing to do. And I do like the way it's drafted in the back. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions, discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. This will be J6. Is there a motion to approve the July 2013 Dunn, Martin, Miller, and Heathcock LTD legal bill in the amount of $500 for legal services rendered during the months of April 2013 through May 2013 for the eminent domain acquisition of the water sewer main Leopolis Jensen parcels?
So moved.
First by trustee Yukich,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. J7, is there a motion to accept the 40-foot right-of-way dedication from the property located at 13360 West 167th Street in Homer Glen, Illinois?
I so moved.
First by trustee Suisse,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J8. Is there a motion to authorize the village manager to petition the Plan Commission to initiate a text amendment that would amend Table 2A, the table of permitted and special uses in non-residential zoning districts in regards to restaurants carryout in the C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, and C6 zoning districts?
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I would just point out from the staff's, this, of course, will absolutely come back to the village board for a vote, either up or down. All this does is send a recommendation from the committee through the board on to the Plan Commission for their further discussion and analysis. And then they will either bring forward a positive or a negative recommendation back to the board. Maybe they'll suggest some adjustments. But you would see this again in a month or so and be able to make a decision then ultimately whether you wanted to move forward with it with the recommendation from the Plan Commission.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Trustee
I have
Yukich?
a couple questions on this one. This one that we're looking before us right now, first of all, it makes it to where we want to move things through a little bit quicker than what they have been.
That's correct,
for a while.
and that's correct. And the other thing that's on the positive side of this proposed change from the committee is the significant reduction in cost. Whenever you have to petition the Plan Commission, of course, for special consideration, which is what this is, it costs a good amount of money. You see the difference there on page 2 of your supplement sheet. The difference would be $1,700 just for that approval versus $800. It's a pretty dramatic amount for a new business that's starting up in town. So, and a good example, I had a question at the start of the meeting, if I could, Trustee Yukich, for the public's benefit. One of the members of the public asked what type of business this would be, and a good example, of course, would be Pizza Mia, right? Pizza Mia up the street. Typically, you don't have tables inside the restaurant, or you just have a couple. You're basically showing up to pick up a pizza, take it out, either order it, wait for it, and then it comes to you, or they do a lot of carry out. So this is not, doesn't have anything to do with a drive-through or a sit-down restaurant or anything of that nature.
Okay. Then one other question on the back end for budget implications.
Right.
It says that $250 of this fee was used to cover the village's cost for publication of a legal notice. Does a legal notice still have to go in for this? And if so, who's paying it?
Right, that's no longer required. Right, that's no longer required.
Okay.
Yep.
Then last is, on page 2, it says that it normally took 60 to 120 days to do, and the fee was $925. They're gonna drop the fee, and they're saying that a building permit takes approximately 10 days to obtain.
Right.
Now, the only thing that scares me on that is if we have, things are turning, and it is getting busy.
Right.
So if you have a lot of things on your plate, and you're throwing something in that normally took 60 to 120, shoving it in at 10, are
Well,
we overburdening the staff?
Sure, no, I appreciate you asking the question, though. It's great to hear that question. The reason why it took so long is for scheduling, for public notice, for the ads that have to run in the paper, for the additional material that's required when it goes to the Plan Commission. The petitioner has to develop all that. That's part of the expense. In addition, I would just say that 1738 that you see, the difference 1738, how it currently is versus 813 how it was, that doesn't include any of the legal costs that the petitioner has. Typically, they have an attorney that represents them, so you're really probably looking at, add another 1,000 or even more. So the difference between the timing is if it's a permitted use in that zoning classification, they can come in and they can get a permit. If it's not, and they need to go through the Plan Commission, then it drags out because of the posting, the advertisement, depending on the schedule of the meetings and all that. And then it has to go from Plan Commission meeting to the village board meeting. So that's the reduction in time.
Then my last one, I know I said that was my last one, but this is my last one.
All good questions.
Because it's also including C1, which is basically residential, if a resident has an issue with it or a concern on it, does it still give them the opportunity to come forward with an issue or concern, or is it's streamlined so well that it doesn't give anyone an opportunity to do anything.
Right. Well, one of the interesting things now, based on the changes that we've already made, is C1 for us in terms of commercial right now basically means Orland Oak. That's it. So just to give you a frame of reference. And there probably will not be a significant amount of C1 in the future because there probably won't be a lot of developers and their banks that are willing to develop shopping centers that have restrictions like the C1 brand would have. So C1 right now, you think Orland Oak, I think the residents who live over in that area are pretty comfortable with the uses, and I don't think that would be a problem in that area. Of course, if they did find out about it and they wanted to come in and talk to us about it, they always could, either you guys or us.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Okay, trustee Suisse?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I'm sorry. I'm not ready.
No, my comment is, the special use process allows the village the opportunity to protect the residents from adverse impacts. So you're talking about carry-out restaurants. There's increased traffic, garbage, lights, smell, odor, hours of operation. And I think special use helps us to prevent that, where I think a building permit, we're missing that step. We're missing that double check.
Well, one of the things just restaurants are allowed in C1. So there are restaurants in that shopping
Right,
center I
well,
just
I'm
mentioned
talking
right now.
special use permit.
Right, but restaurants are allowed in that zoning classification without a special use. Right now, all we're talking about are businesses where people come, basically, if you think about it, to pick up pizzas. That's the number one business in this arena. So, I think about the shopping center up the way here. Pizza Mia is probably the least impactful business in that whole shopping center. Blueberry Hill, of course, a very successful restaurant,
Right.
30, 40 cars, Pizza Mia, 2 or 3, and people come and go. Nobody wants to come and stand for, half hour waiting for a pizza. They arrive when they tell them to arrive, So in reality, in terms of parking and noise and stuff like that, I would argue the exact opposite and say that these types of businesses can actually be a lot less impactful than sit-down restaurants and businesses like that. Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Sabo?
Yes, I have a comment. I really am concerned about this blanket zoning in all the Cs, from C1 all the way to C6. And we haven't had the current ordinance in place for very long, and there were reasons that it was a permitted use. And I'd like you to refresh my memory, because we don't have any evidence. You get background information, but there's no evidence of why this ordinance was recommended by the Plan Commission and staff. There were reasons for that, and I'd like the board to hear those reasons.
Sure, that's really easy to do. I'm going to let Janie talk a little bit, if you can, grab the mic. It's really based on the fact that what we're all trying to do on the staff level, the committee level, and the board level, is to set up our available commercial spaces to be rented, to move, to prosper, so we have fewer vacant spaces in the community, which I think we can all agree on would be a good thing. And so in doing so, what we're looking for is things that block or that impede, slow down, discourage. I'm kind of taking your thunder, aren't I? Why don't you go ahead before I talk more?
You're doing a great job.
Go. You go ahead.
But Manager Davis is basically saying that, when businesses are looking for spaces, they also are looking for what is the process to get the business open. And so they are looking for challenges that may cost more money or more time or both. And then there are many options out there in the marketplace. So if they do find a place where it's difficult, they're going to naturally look around for the options. And so staff is continually looking, and when we're speaking with businesses and we become aware of issues where there could be an obstacle to business growing in Homer Glen, and where and only where it makes sense and would be appropriate, that all of the other controls and measures that we have in our processes to make sure, for instance, the building is going to be a safe building, the operation is going to be a safe operation, vis-à-vis the building permit, et cetera. There is a rationale for recommending that we promote and become more business-friendly by making an amendment to the process. So this is one of those situations where the staff is feeling that it would be best, in the best interest for everybody involved, the village, the businesses, and the business districts, because we can see new businesses come in with less time and money involved and actually be able to win those recruitments. So it's not to remove it from all commercial districts. It would still be there in the C1.
No, it's all.
All?
Yeah, it's all. The committee was recommending that.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah.
I got it. I'm updated again.
Right.
Okay, so it is removing it to all. That's correct.
I think one of the things that it would be good for staff to do if the board approves this tonight, and of course Erin is here and she staffs the Plan Commission, is to raise the question with the Plan Commission, express the concern that they look specifically and with some due diligence on the change in the C1 zoning category in particular. And so I've heard that from a couple of the trustees, so I think I would direct Erin to communicate to the Plan Commission and make sure that they debate that fully and see what their take is on the change in the C1, which is obviously the most sensitive zoning classification. So,
well, I still have some questions here because I didn't get my answer about the reason. There's a background.
Then let me give it to you if you didn't get it from what we said. We're trying to remove blockages. This is a blockage. When you require someone like a Pizza Mia to come in and spend $1,000 or $2,000 more on top of all of their other development costs to come fill a vacant 1,200 square foot space, you are impeding economic development. And the purpose of the committee, the Community Economic Development Committee, is to work with staff to look for current impediments to economic development and try to suggest changes, how to improve it. And so that's the main focus, looking here and there. And of course, they've been doing that, right? The committee and the board has made changes on signage issues, several changes on signage issues to try to improve that, and various other things that we've been doing over the last 2 years. And this is another one of those examples where we're trying to make empty commercial spaces more desirable for development. That's probably the number one.
Well, I certainly, that's admirable. I mean, we don't like to see vacant spaces. It's nice to be able to say we're helping business because that's important. But there's another side of it because there are consequences to these changes. And that's why I go back to what happened with the Plan Commission a few years ago and staff. They were recommending the current status for a reason. And I really want to know those reasons. I know what you have said to me about your purpose here, but there's another side of that. We've only seen the pro side. There's consequences on the other side to doing this. For example, on 143rd Street, in the comprehensive plan and people that had worked on that, they wanted to keep that mostly C1. And the reason for that is because that's a neighborhood zoning and there are homes there. And as you go down that street, when you have more intense zoning, it isn't desirable for the residents that live there, for our taxpayers. And I also believe that when you don't have the permitted use, these places can go in anywhere, and there's no safeguards here. There's no input from the community or the neighboring property owner, whether it even be a business, and so I really am concerned because it's important that businesses know what's going to happen, and if they don't disagree with a business coming in and it has a special use permit, they can record their concerns. They can appeal to the board. With a permitted use, you can't. And I just can't see these places, carry-out restaurants, just popping up here and there without any concern here. I know that what we're trying to do is to encourage business. That's very important, and also the right kind of business. So I still feel, and here's another situation, in two situations that I remember, it's Kingston Hills. Kingston Hills, there was a proposal for a commercial near them. They had the opportunity to say no and voice their opinion because it was a special use. And also, it happened in the Homer Town Center on 143rd. It gave the ability, special use gives the ability for the surrounding property owners, whether whoever they are, business, residents, so forth, to voice their opinion, to have input. And if we can't do that in this community, we are not allowing the residents to have the opportunity to make it their village. It becomes something else. And I'm really concerned about this blanket zoning, as I said before. I think that some of them should have it, special use, and some should not. But this really removes any protection for property owners. I want to know the reasons. A while ago, that the current permit was in place, or the current zoning was in place, and the length of time to get a permit, and then the fee and so forth.
Well, I think I can answer that. Obviously, it's the most conservative thing. So I would guess that when the community was originally formed, like a lot of things that we've been changing, you picked the most conservative option. And that, I mean, you can't get more conservative than the current law. What I would just remind the board is that what we're talking about right now is the only two businesses in town that have had to go through this are Papa John's and Pizza Mia. And as far as I'm aware, the 2 years I've been here, there hasn't been a single complaint about either of those businesses. And I'm sure we can go back even longer. Pizza Mia has been there for 4 years. I'm not aware of any complaints from anyone in the community about either of those businesses. And these kind of businesses are typically the kind that you see, carry out pizza places. And so I appreciate Trustee Sabo's comments on it, but I don't want to paint this picture that's not based in reality. The reality is the two businesses in this community that have this are Pizza Mia and Papa John's. And I don't think either of those cause any neighborhoods, any residents, anyone driving through the community any problems. And I don't think they would in any of in our C1 zoning. I think people that live over by our C1 zoning shopping center would be happy to have either of those businesses in them. So I don't need to go on and on about it. I want to try to further explain the reason why we're going.
Well, and I think the village manager and Aaron can explain your concerns and other trustees' concerns to the plan commission. But if I have it correct, it comes back to the village board.
Right, and I think the important thing to do on the plan commission
I think it'd be nice to hear what the plan commission thinks after they hear your concerns, and maybe they have some other recommendations minus, what is being sent to them, So why don't we just send it to plan commission, get their feedback, and it's going to come back to us for discussion.
But the reason, if you're asking that question, is because if this board is concerned about it, and there's some trustees concerned about this, that it shouldn't go to the plan commission.
Well, we always raise, whenever there are concerns that are raised, when we do something like this, from one trustee or two, Marcia raised some concerns about the issue related to parking lot islands, which you did too. We brought those up to the plan commission. So we always do that. Whenever we send something through the plan commission, we always tell them, by the way, this trustee and this trustee, or a couple trustees, or however we say it, had this concern. And so, I mean, the whole purpose of doing these petitions to the plan commission is that they are the body that you have all appointed to give you advice on this. So you send the full request from committee to them, and you ask for their full and complete advice. It might be, Trustee Szabo, that they come back and completely agree with you, or not, But I do think, I would urge you from a staff perspective to send it forward and see what their complete advice is, and then it will come back to
Yeah,
you. And you can
yeah,
make a
I don't,
decision.
in zoning issues, I certainly don't like the idea of cutting the planning commission out because you don't want to have their opinion in this matter. I mean, that's the purpose of having a planning commission. They review the zoning issues, and we're just asking them what they think. And at some point in time, or well, the village board is going to or the staff is going to definitely state your concerns or any other concerns that were discussed tonight. It will come back, but to cut the planning commission's opinion out of zoning issues is just not correct.
Well,
Village government doesn't work like that.
Well, first of all, I'm not cutting any plan commission out of anything. This is a proposal that comes from staff.
It comes from the committee.
Pardon me?
It comes from the Community and Economic Development Committee. It's a
Okay,
recommendation from
and it
them.
comes from a committee.
Right.
Okay. And I'm glad that they were thorough and so forth, but I don't think that since there's no evidence here about what happened before, to know why this ordinance was actually created, that's an important issue. I think that the way that this is proposed for carry-out restaurants is not, the foundation for this is not right. I don't see why we pass on something that some of the trustees would not agree with, and then to have the Plan Commission review it based on something that wasn't quite right in the first place. So I'm not preventing the Plan Commission from doing it, but it seems to be a circuitous route, and it comes back to us, and it probably hasn't changed much. That's what I think will happen.
Well, then you vote against it. That's your prerogative.
Or you amend it.
It would be
Or
like
you amend it.
Or you amend it. It would be like you coming forward with something from your committee, and I say, no, I'm not sending it to Plan Commission. This came from the Economic Development Committee to break down some of the stumbling blocks in the C1, C2 through C6 zoning categories. And all we're saying with this motion here is to get an opinion from the Plan Commission with the concerns of the trustees that have debated this now for probably about a half hour, and get their opinion. And the staff will present both sides as to what your concerns were, and we'll hear back from the Plan Commission. And at that time, you'll have your choice to agree or disagree with moving it forward.
Well, I'm with that. I just think it starts out wrong to begin with, and this board can say yes or no.
As the village attorney just mentioned to me too, it's also a public hearing that you can go and voice your opinion.
A public hearing, you can voice your opinion when it isn't a special use?
Yeah, if it's an open meeting of the Plan Commission and it's a public hearing, everybody is entitled to go to the public hearing and voice their opinion, whether they're a trustee or a member of the public. I can go and express my opinion as a private citizen, even though I don't live in Homer Glen.
What happens with that is that if it isn't a special use, most of the residents won't know what's happening. A special use notifies people. It takes more time. It takes more. I just think we ought to look at the resident side, the property owner side, and just not always the business side. I'm for business, and I want to see good business here, but I just can't.
That is the purpose of sending it to the Plan Commission to get their opinion on it, in which your concerns will be voiced through staff, or you can go there and voice your concerns yourself.
Well, that's a new one, because we were told we were never to go to Plan Commission and voice, because we don't want to influence them at the time.
Well,
But it's absolutely your right to do that.
Well,
Right.
thank you, because
okay.
we had a difference of opinion.
Mayor, could I just
Yeah.
ask one small question?
Trustee
Just
Yukich?
If we're going to be bringing this to the planning commission for them to evaluate this, the only thing that, it says districts in regards to restaurants carry-out. Does that strictly mean food carry-out? Because you have liquor carry-out.
Oh,
You have-
this doesn't deal with liquor.
All right, so, but you know what, to be specific, just food carry-out?
Yeah, it's just dispensing of food.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
would,
Yeah,
this way,
that's something I
everything's
would-
covered, so we have an answer for
That's a
everything.
good question.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Nay.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sable?
No?
Trustee Yukich?
Yes.
Mayor Daley, yes. That is enough for, motion carries. Okay, this would be J9. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 13-044, an ordinance amending ordinance 13-009, an ordinance establishing permit licensing and other fees, annual fee ordinance for the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo, second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion?
One question.
Go ahead, trustee Yukich.
Current development review fees for outdoor seating is $925, special use $675, publication $250. CED's proposed development review fees for outdoor seating is $100 and $250. Would that be for all existing, or would it be, I mean, we have the existing ones that have already gone through it, so there's no sense in charging them twice for it.
Well, sometimes they have to if they come back and they want to expand it. See,
Right,
that's
but-
one of the issues. As an example, Mullets is considering coming back to expand.
No.
They would have to spend, under our current, they'd have to spend the full amount.
And I understand it, because
right.
that's why I said existing. If they want to change to it, it's not existing, it is making it bigger.
Both existing and new.
So how would that work? Or if you have a new business that comes in, because you're still going to have staff time on this to get everything together for them, I can see not charging them twice. You want to double dip. But-
It's technically considered an amendment to a PUD, so you'd still be paying again. Since this ordinance outdoor seating was added in 2008, though, the majority of businesses do not actually have a special use. They're operating without one, except for Pelican Harry's has one, and I believe Taza's does as well. So they're the only two businesses that actually are operating with one. So if they expanded, they would have one, but everybody else is operating without a special use because they were in existence beforehand.
Right,
So they weren't charged before.
Right, so as an example, if Pepe's came in and they wanted to expand theirs, or Mullets came in and they wanted to expand theirs, you're looking at the $925. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to reduce it. Yeah, because you typically, outdoor seating, everybody thinks that makes a lot of money. Oftentimes it does not. It's very expensive to expand. So when someone comes to us and says they want to expand, and we tell them, okay, right off the start, you're going to lay down almost $1,000, they're like, forget about it. And of course, we want to be supportive of that because that's a nice amenity that we want to have in the community. So, yeah.
Okay. Is there, trustee Suisse?
Yes. Just, you said this was for outdoor seating. That means table, chairs, service. What about they bring in games and things like that? Is it just pertain to outdoor seating? Because like in this one instance, they want to set up bean tournaments.
It's any expansion of your outdoor area. So it
So
could
it's just
be
an outdoor area that we're talking about.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes.
What's that? Trustee Sabo?
Okay. I realize that the purpose is to help business and so forth, but I would like to know how the number, reducing the special use from $675 to a special use of $100 was arrived at.
Upon discussion at the committee level, it was a recommendation from staff. We're not certain how the original numbers were arrived at. They seem to be kind of arbitrary in some instances. So that's a number that we feel is fair based on the amount of staff time that would be involved. Had Aaron and I been around when the original number was instituted, which we kind of consider kind of onerous, we would have argued for a lower number at the start. I can't tell you the reason for it because I have no documentation to say what the reason for it was, and of course none of those people are here. We feel that this is a more equitable number based on the amount of staff time that's involved in this type of activity.
Have other towns been researched? Usually we have a comparison with what other towns are charging.
We really didn't in this instance. We didn't feel that it was necessary. We're trying to be, Homer-centric, very business-friendly here. I didn't, as a leader of staff, I really didn't care what Lockport was charging. It's kind of irrelevant in my mind. The real thing that we're focusing in on is when people come in and talk to us, whether, I mentioned Pepe's, they've talked to us. They didn't make changes after they found out how expensive it was. Mullets has talked to us. He stepped back. We're trying to address business owners' needs here in this town. So I don't really care what they're charging, or for this particular one, I don't really care what they're charging other places.
Okay.
I mean,
No.
the reality of the fee is that it's supposed to have some basis in fact in terms of how much time we're spending to process it. We're not looking to make money on this. We're just trying to figure out how much staff time goes into it. So Aaron and I, upon discussing it, felt like that was a fair amount of money based on the amount of staff time that's involved. This is typically not a super complicated issue, so.
Okay, do they have to, with the new addition then, or expansion, the special use process would allow for input in so that,
Right.
well, that's
Absolutely.
very good. That's
Absolutely.
what's needed.
So,
Thank you.
again, using Pepe's as an example, if adjoining property owners wanted to step up and say, we're concerned about outdoor bag tournaments, or we're concerned about this, or we're concerned about that, they would have the opportunity
Well,
to do
that's
that.
good because a lot of it would be noise. I mean,
Right,
you
it's
just
outside,
don't know.
exactly.
It might affect business and residents.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay, any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
She said aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J10. Is there a motion to grant an extension of an existing special use for Homer Glen Center Phase 1 and 2 at 14401 West 143rd Street in Homer Glen, Illinois, for an additional one-year period beginning on August 8th, 2013, and continuing through August 8th, 2014?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion? Madam
Yes.
Clerk, trustee Suisse, go ahead.
No, I was looking at where Attorney Horvat last year communicated to staff regarding our zoning ordinance that stated a single-year extension period, and then if it this is reoccurring, this is like the 8th extension.
Right.
And either, maybe we should, if we're going to keep doing this, we either change the zoning ordinance, or he starts anew at a reduced rate when he comes back. I mean, I don't know how long we're going to continue.
Mayor, I could just address that
Go
real
ahead.
briefly. You have an interesting history here in town of extending these. You have a number of these that the village board over time have extended past the 1 year. The 1 year is the most conservative. You see it it's very common in communities. What that 1 year in village codes across suburban area did not anticipate is the recession.
And 8 years later.
Right, right. It's been a long time, and we're still recovering from it. So the board actually, there's a number of examples where the board has extended these for a number of different projects to try to help them facilitate. This particular one, we recently made some zoning changes on and whatnot for this parcel. And we know that the owner is actively marketing it and trying to make things happen now that the economy's turned. So I think that from a staff perspective, I would recommend approval of this, but I would also say that when 10 months from now comes and 12 months, we should all look at it more closely and have maybe the petitioner here to talk a little bit more about the next extension.
Right, because currently he has no financial ability to proceed, or, there's no, it's all question marks again.
Right, we see this in a lot of the developments that the board has done this with over the past couple years. I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to let the people that have received approvals get out of this recession and try to make something happen. As we climb out of it and the economy gets better, you might look more closely at these votes on extensions in, a year from now and they're going forward. So.
Okay. Trustee DeVivo?
I'll just make a comment on this. I can certainly understand what's happening here, and some of us have a long history with this particular development. And I know he's had a difficult time. Maybe we're a bit unique because there's no water, there's no sewer in that particular area. He has tried very hard to run that to the location, so
Right.
he could actually market this and make some sense of it. And I think that in the near future, he will have access to that with the church being built, but it's going to take a little more time than he probably anticipated, so.
Right, I would say that the 1 year is pretty common in communities, and it is a, conservative position. Of course, it's always the village board's prerogative to extend it, which this village board has done for a number of developments repeatedly. So,
Okay, any further discussion?
Well,
Trustee Sabo?
I too am, looked at what the attorney has said here, to really, is it possible? I mean, do you really feel, the question is, if satisfactory information is not provided by the owner, the village board should be informed the special use has been abandoned and should be voided. I know that, there are hard times and so on, we are very lenient with this, but, this has gone on since 2009, and it's regrettable what has happened with the economy. So is it possible to do something more than just a year? Is it possible to do less than a year, and maybe in that time we would know, rather than having this go on year by year?
one of the things that the staff could do on behalf of the board is to, I would really recommend, just for sanity's sake, so that we don't have a bunch of different, this guy is 6 months, this guy's 12 months, that we stick with the extension as it's defined, but have staff communicate the village board's concern to the owner that the project begin moving forward. Obviously, you can say in that, I could say in that letter, you have been granted this number of extensions. It's not like it's just one or two, and express that the village board really wants to see some progress made in the next 12 months. I think that would be appropriate, and that would be above and beyond what we would normally do. You do have other examples of this. Dr. Glen, we're moving forward with him on 159th Street. He's made some changes to his building that's going to be coming forward to the Plan Commission again. He really wants to start moving on one building, but you've extended that a number of times. There are other examples. So I think it's a good practice to keep supporting these potential developments, but it would also probably not hurt to tell them we really want to see some progress in the next 12 months.
Yeah, you can craft a letter to just basically say this isn't going to go on for eternity. That you have the ability to have the next 12 months to work on this. If it doesn't appear in the next 12 months, you may have to appear in front of the village board to go through the process again. And that should motivate them, Cam, so.
Yeah, I think it would be a motivator. And get them, I could make a standard just operating procedure that from now on, when any of these come up, that the owner has to be present at the village board to give an update to the board on what's happening with the development.
Okay.
I'd like to ask that, go ahead.
No.
I'd like to ask that if in the past, there must have been communication with the property owner.
Well, you just changed his zoning. He was here before you with his attorney, and he talked pretty extensively about the project and what direction he was moving. What was it, a month ago, 2 months ago? So, I mean, this is kind of a unique situation in that actually a lot of those discussions happened at that meeting when he explained what his intentions were. Janie, of course, is in regular contact with him, with people like Dr. Glen, with the other people that you've given these extensions to. And so that's kind of a unique thing now since she's been on board, is that she's staying in contact with them regularly to kind of push them forward, help them where she can. So I think, there's more accountability now, but a letter to them saying that we expect progress and that when and if this comes up again, they'll be expected at the village board to account for, to make the appeal in person. That would probably be good. Yeah.
Okay.
He needs to know that it just can't go unended.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J11. Is there a motion to accept the lowest proposal and approve a contract with Natural Path Urban Forestry Consultants, Oak Park, Illinois, to conduct a stem-by-stem public tree inventory and to develop an EAB management plan report? It is understood that this agreement will not exceed $20,950. Any additional cost above and beyond the $20,950 would need to come back before the village board for consideration.
So moved.
First by
Second.
Trustee DeVivo, second by Trustee Sabo. Is there any discussion? Madam,
I would, I'd like to say that the Environment Committee interviewed with Mike Salamovich. Appreciate Mike being there. And also Mike DeVivo, who was there specifically because of the road, because the trees are in the parkway. And the questions were thorough. We were very pleased because he has been very descriptive about what he's going to do. He has met all of the RFP requirements, and he is very thorough, and when we say stem by stem, that's what he intends to do. And this also touches on the subject of replacing trees, because that's the next step to a grant to apply for, because there will be trees that will that are dying, that have been removed, and so forth, that are in the parkway. And it has been mentioned that people were concerned about trees in the business district dying, and there's a need for to work on how to replace them. So the Environment Committee has made recommendations for tree replacement, and I hope that the staff will follow up with investigating that. But I also, Mike DeVivo isn't here, but I also wish to thank the Highway Commissioner. And I believe that this gentleman has met every requirement. The price was right, and he has a great reputation. He has worked in, he knows the communities around here. He knows other areas, and he's careful with village resources. That has been stated, and he has been, he's focused on tree inventory around the world. So I thank everybody.
okay. We have a first and a second on that. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be J12. Before we consider the motion on this item, I've asked Village Manager Davis and Director Salamovich to give a presentation on this item.
Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to speak just briefly for a couple minutes. This is a very exciting agenda item, to say the least. And there's two different aspects I'd like to say. First of all, I'd like to recognize Jeff. Jeff's here from HR Green tonight. And Jeff, I murder your last name every time I say it. Thank you. They understand now. It's a wonderful name, but I'm not so good on pronunciations. You know, the village has established a outstanding working relationship with HR Green, and I want to acknowledge it just for a minute. It was a year ago, almost this week, June 25th, that the village board approved their first contract with HR Green. To my knowledge, we had never worked with this engineering company, which does work everywhere, but I had never worked with personally myself in my career. We approved the first contract, and that first contract was to do our subdivision review, our non-LOC subdivision review. And since that time, the village board has approved 9 separate contracts with HR Green. Everything from the Amberfield development, the various phases of Amberfield, to Oak Valley, which is going great guns, which may have been the other update you were going to give them tonight. Oak Valley, the stormwater improvement project down there, and to the Heroes Trail South Extension, which you've approved them working on, and the Phase 1 for the Goodings Grove Heroes Trail extension, which you've also approved. And the great thing about it is every single time they've come before the board, actually Erin Hills, the park, every time they've come before the board has been very receptive to staff's recommendation. They've all been unanimous votes. And we really appreciate that, because I think, this is just kind of my opinion. I think one of the struggles maybe the village had as we were growing in the early years, where we used a number of different engineering firms, and it was hard to get like a comprehensive feel for all the projects that we were working on. Now we've basically kind of settled in with a great working relationship with HR Green over a year now, and they're doing great work, and staff couldn't be happier. They do what they say, They deliver what they promise, usually ahead of time, which is not something the village has had a historical luck with from engineering firms. So I just wanted to mention real briefly, I'm actually really impressed by the company since I've grown to know them here this past year. Having said that, obviously the Oak Valley project is our first big stormwater improvement project to improve the flooding problems we have in the community. We've done a number of smaller projects before that, 3 or 4. But this is the big one going on now. And these 7 that are before you tonight are the next wave of the big projects. When the board approved the bonding authority, you approved it for 3 things. 159th Street improvements, those the village is responsible for. The acquisition of the water transmission line, the Bedford Park water transition line, our portion of it, and to fix flooding problems in the community. And so we're excited to bring forward this second package of major improvements. We've got a proposal from HR Green that Michael and I think is very fair based on our years of experience with engineering projects and working with engineering companies. And, the list actually, beyond these 7, is long. So this is going to be a multi-year approach to fixing all of these stormwater projects. But these 7 we think are good projects to begin this first big push on. They are scattered throughout the community, all the way from the north to the south, so that no neighborhood should feel excluded. Okay, they're nicely spread around. And we did that by design. We didn't want the southern part of the community to feel like we were only making improvements on the north, or the north to think we were only doing improvements on the south. So there's a method to all the madness, and we really appreciate your consideration of it tonight. And Mike and I can answer any questions that you have. Jeff is here too. Any questions that you have about the item before you?
I've worked hard with Cam and Mike on putting together, a major comprehensive approach to solving some of these flooding problems. And when we talked with the public about the bonding, taking on bonding for the first time in this village, we made it clear that that was one of our major priorities. We have an opportunity now to address the first 7 that seem to be the most serious behind the Oak Valley detention pond that is under construction right now. I've had the pleasure of working with H&R Green for some time, and as I go out to inspect Oak Valley, basically on a daily basis, what do I see out there? I see a white SUV with HR Green written on the side of it. They have a tremendous on-site presence, which I have not seen with any of the engineering companies that we've worked with in the past. The other thing is, when you look at this as a regional issue with the flooding and what have you, I'm very comfortable with working with HR Green, as they've done, I believe it's 10 projects now. I would highly recommend the board approve, what is it, J12. With that being said, is there any questions before I ask for a motion of either the village manager, Mike Salamovich, or HR Green's representative?
Actually, if you're going to ask now before we vote, I have no problem with HR Green doing it, but I still think we should have RFPs go out. There's still a lot of other good companies out there, and you're just comparing apples to apples. Nothing says we couldn't have gotten this done for a lot less money either.
Right. I understand that point, and I think it's a valid point. I do think, Trustee Yukich, I would just say this in terms of that. I wouldn't bring it forward to you because, I'm those of you who know me now 2 years, I watch the dimes and nickels. Okay, I don't frivolously spend money here at the village. I wouldn't bring it forward to you if I thought that the proposal that you had before you was not a reasonable proposal, and I truly believe it is. The other thing that I think we really need to focus on going forward is we need to work with, my opinion, I think Michael's opinion too. We've talked about this quite a bit, and I think the mayor joins us in this issue. We need, now that we've found a good company that is delivering results for us on time and within budget We need to stick with this company and get some stuff done. One of the troubles with moving from engineering firm to engineering firm, there's a lot of, I agree with you completely, there's a lot of good engineering firms out there. I could name a number of them that maybe could have delivered the same 9 good projects that we've hired them to do, over the past year. But the reality is that we've been working with HR Green, and they're the company. Now they've done Oak Valley. Hopefully we'll move forward and they'll do these 7, and then there'll be 7 more after that. And I will be back here, if their proposal is reasonable, asking you to approve them for those 7 projects too. Because we've got to have a coordinated approach to fixing the flooding problems in the community. We can't switch from engineering firm to engineering firm to engineering firm and not have consistency of approach. Most, as the mayor said a couple minutes ago, most of these flooding problems are regional in nature. Water falls on the Kmart parking lot and it ends up in Oak Valley. Okay? A lot of these are regional in nature, and you have to think of these improvements like spokes on a wheel. That one improvement affects another, affects another, affects another. If you bring in different engineering firms to do each batch of program every time you did it, I am very concerned as village manager about coordination and about the fact that it all works. And so I like the fact that right now, we have one company that's looking out for our interests, doing a very good job of it, and I would like to urge the board to stick with this company at a reasonable rate, which I think we have, and moving forward. Now, we evaluate them at the end of every single project. We sit down and we talk about it. If we are unhappy with how these 7 projects move, then absolutely I'll be here before you saying it's time to consider another firm, let's move forward. But I would never have brought it forward to you if I didn't think it was a reasonable amount of money for the amount of work that they'll be doing on this project.
Well, my point on it is, on J11, we did an RFP for a guy to count trees. But we didn't do an RFP on something you're spending $90,000.
Right.
And at the bottom of it says there's still a bunch of costs that could turn up because it's not all included in here.
Right.
All I'm
But
saying
the main reason we did that, though, is because neither of those firms, actually none of the firms that submitted proposals, I don't think, none of the firms that submitted proposals for the tree count we had ever worked with before.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a great working relationship with the one that you've approved, but we had not worked with Davy, we had not worked with any, or even this firm that you approved tonight, we never worked with them in the past. We actually have a history with HR Green now. Obviously, you've approved a couple $100,000 in projects with them over the past year.
Yeah,
So we have a very strong history with them. We know that they're a good producer of product. We know that they meet budget and that they get it done on time. So that's the difference between those two scenarios. The tree counting thing was a completely unknown entity, whereas HR Green is a known entity to us now. They've been delivering for a year.
Yeah, the EAB issue is a new one for us that we have to figure how we're going to handle it and what direction we're going to go with it, and if we're going to have some program for putting trees back in that get taken out. I mean, that takes a specialized type of person for that. This here, why I'm very fortunate to have a company like this, is they've now affiliated themselves with Homer Glen, and Homer Glen to them is a priority. Now, when you bring other firms in and you're trying to do a mass flooding solution, you've got a company saying, well, I need information from him. Well, I sent it to you on Tuesday, and the village is in the middle of it. So where you have a detention pond that flows to another detention pond that works its way to a creek or across land or through whatever means it takes, we've worked with this company now through 9 projects that is out there in all ends of this village with this contract, getting us prepared. Now, this isn't construction. This is preparing us in the engineering phase to tell us what we have to do. Then we have to figure out how much money we have available at that point in time based upon what they come up with is the solution, the estimated cost, the construction cost. So I highly recommend we stay with HR Green, and they have been affiliated with us for some time, have done a wonderful job, and we're here, we're ready, we've got 7 projects that we want to hit the ground running, get the people happy. So also, George, and it's a bit irrelevant, but it is relevant, is one of one of the calls that comes in on a regular basis, I mean on a regular basis, is my basement flooded 3 times. What are you going to do about it? You know, and we've got to work with the forest preserve too. You know, we send so it's a complicated process that too many hands in the pie. We're taking a step backwards. We're not moving forward.
If I
And
could
I
clarify.
don't, well,
Trustee
I don't
DeVille?
think that Trustee Yukich is saying that, you know, this is not a good idea to do this. I really kind of think that just because we might say yes to something like this and have Green do the project, doesn't mean we would never send anything out for bid again. And I would really like to say that I agree with what you've been saying. When you talk about stormwater, part of the problems that we've gotten into, and I think, you know, certainly Trustee Sabo can remember all of the issues that have gone on years and years with these projects. I am so sick of seeing them over and over again that we haven't been able to get them done. You have a dozen engineering companies. One does this, one does that. This one doesn't know what that one is doing. It is a problem. So you really, for this type of thing, need to kind of stick to one person so that they know what's going on. They look at another project, they're going to remember, well, this happened over here. That's where the water's coming from. We understand that now. This is good, and I am glad to finally see these projects start moving forward.
And to give you a little more information on HR Green, they have in-house grant writing people. They can assist us there. They have former IDOT people that it's an easier connection with IDOT, and we're going to have plenty of stormwater issues on 159th Street. We've already know about the situation on the Dunn Farm with a conservation area, a pond, this or that. The next thing, two different watersheds. So I highly urge that we stay with HR Green, get these 7 costs identified, and see if we can afford some this year. Let's hit the ground running. That's what I like.
Mayor,
to
one
do.
final thing I just mentioned, you know, just so there's some added degree of comfort from the board level, you know, the RFP for Oak Valley, or the quotes that we got for Oak Valley, HR Green was the lowest. There's another project where we got some quotes on, and again, HR Green was the lowest. So HR Green does not have a history, from what my colleagues tell me, of being at the top of the pile. They're usually very competitive in projects that they do. You know, when you go out for bid, you're just as likely to get more expensive proposals as less. It might end up being that this was the lowest.
Here, let me just finish my thought, because it keeps getting interrupted here. I have no problem with HR Green doing this. I have no problem with approving it tonight. I have a problem with not comparing bids. You compare apples to apples. You do a check and balance. I own a business. I change vendors all the time. Even if I've got a vendor that's doing good, I might get another one that's doing better. And I'm not saying anything bad about HR Green. I know they're doing a very good job. We should have an RFP put out on these. You're spending over, by the time we're done with this, we're spending over $100,000. I think that the taxpayers should have the right to have a couple people put a bid in. I understand they could be more expensive too, but you're comparing apples to apples. And I'm not saying here, let's this one do this one, this one do this one, this one do this one. I'm saying do the same thing. Give them all 7. HR Green, right now, you're on your second one for Old Oak, correct? You're doing your second project right now.
Old Oak is the first. The one that we're doing now
Oak
was
Hills?
their
Oak
first.
Valley.
Oak Valley?
Oak Valley.
All right,
Yeah, it's
but
their first
still just-
project.
All right, but my point is, they haven't done a lot of them either, and I'm not saying anything bad about them, and I want the flooding corrected. But I'm also watching the money like it's coming out of my pocket too.
Right,
Because it
as
is.
I am too.
As I am
I wouldn't
also.
bring it forward to you if I thought it was
That's
an
what I'm
unreasonable
saying.
amount.
All I'm saying is from now on, that's fine. I have no issue at all tonight with approving HR Green on this,
Right.
but I want RFPs. I think it should still be done.
I appreciate the point. I do. I really do.
And one other thing too, Trustee Yukich, is as we use HR Green on a lot of projects like we have, there may be a point where we can't, you know, they're just too busy on the projects that they have, and you're going to have another engineering company come in that specializes in whatever you're delving into next. But at this point in time, they're really well-versed in what we're trying to accomplish here. And, you know, I would support giving them the contract to find out what it's going to cost to solve the 7 worst problems in Homer Glen.
As do I.
Trustee Sabo?
Well, there's glowing reports about this business, and that's wonderful. I mean, they've been shown they're satisfactory, but knowing a business doesn't, and their quality work doesn't mean that we should be choosing them without the bid process. And I'd like clarification on law about this, because I was always told, the board was always told, you have to go out for bid if it's over a certain price. And so please explain that.
You have to go out to bid if it's a public works project, if it's bricks and mortar. This is a professional service. So if you're happy with, so you don't have to go out for bid every time you use a professional. It's an architect, an engineer, an attorney, your accountant. You just vote them up or down. So if you want to do an RFP, you can do an RFP. You're not required to do an RFP.
And the number one reason why, of course, that's important is because most communities stick with engineering firms. In the previous community I was with, we had Baxter Woolman for over 40 years. I mean, and that's one of the reasons why there's no flooding in my previous community. There was consistency of approach. And I think that's what's important here. And the legislature understands that. That's one of the reasons why it's allowed. For professional services, legal fees, you know, engineering services, you do not have to go out for bid. I've made that point before, but I'm glad it came up tonight just so we could revisit
The
it.
community also that I developed in had the same attorney or the same engineers for, I believe it's over 20 years now.
Well, you know, it's good to have the law clarified, because I was under the assumption that every project, if over a certain amount, you had to go out for bid. Now, when we talk about public works, we're talking about stormwater. Isn't that public works?
If you're talking about bricks and mortar, the actual construction itself,
Yeah.
that requires public bidding unless the board waives it by 2/3 vote.
Right, you're actually hiring the engineering firm to put together the specifications to do the bid. You see, so a good example is Oak Valley. We hired H.R. Green to be the engineering services, and they prepared the specifications. We went out for bid. We ended up hiring, remind me of the firm. Copenhagen, I always forget. And so there will be a bidding process, but it will be during the construction phase, just like we did for Oak Valley.
Okay, I had something else. Did anyone, I wanted to bring up another subject related to this?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think it's clear that bond money is being used on this, although it does say so in our packet. And during the many discussions about bonding, lots of publicity on that, lots of people very concerned. I feel that it's important to be even more transparent than we are or thought to be. And I would like to see that a standard operating procedure is put in place that requires projects paid for with borrowed money, that's bond money, be discussed at a workshop at least one meeting prior to being on the agenda for approval. The public needs to be aware of how the bond money is being spent. Otherwise, they don't know. So all of those hundreds of people that came and were so concerned that we would not be careful with spending will know that we are being careful with spending, and we are being very open about it and very transparent. So that is my recommendation for the next board meeting, to have a motion to vote on that. I'd also like to even bring up something that makes it more transparent, and that would be, since we have been credited with a very high rating regarding our transparency on the website, update transparency on the Homer Glen website to indicate projects being funded by bond money, so that they also know the start date and they know the finish date. And anybody that wants to know how bond money is being spent and on what projects will be able to go to that website to see it. And then the other thing I would like to have prepared for a motion for the next meeting is the vote itself. Is that when we do vote on bond money, and this is something that I did say at the public hearing, I've said first thing at the public hearing, to be transparent, to have a standard operating procedure and so forth, and that is to require a super majority vote to agree to spend this money. So those are my recommendations.
Okay, is there any further comment? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
She said aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Okay, is there any old business?
Mayor, I have one item, and I'll make it very, very quick. Village attorney has spoken to the village board previously about the hiring of a firm to assist us with appraisal services, and he's gone into some detail with you about that. It's a new firm. The previous firm we had used was a little bit too pricey, and so he's found a new firm that's more reasonable. It's budgeted, and it's within our my spending authority. So we're going to move forward with with bringing on T Engineering Services Limited to do the appraisal services for the 2 parcels that we are in condemnation proceeding for. So I just wanted to mention that tonight. I have copies of the agreement if any of you want to see them. And of course, the village engineer will be here after the meeting if you have any questions for him and you want to talk to him about it.
Okay. Any
Thank you,
other
Mayor.
old business? Under new business, Trustee Sabo wanted to just have the village basically formalize something. So I wrote something up here where under new business, I'll entertain a motion to direct the mayor to send a letter to the appropriate state senator and state representatives regarding the village support for clean air monitoring to be located in the Homer Glen area. Is there a first?
I so move.
First by Trustee Sabo,
A second.
second by Trustee Yukich. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there any other new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
First by Trustee Sabo, second by Trustee Yukich. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.